أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذي أذهب الله عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني قولي يفوض أمري إلى الله بصير بالعباد. Is my voice okay?
Certainly some echoing in the back.
Okay, I turned on my microphone, so I'll turn that off.
Yeah. It's still there.
Okay, is this better?
Yeah.
It's
All
better.
right. Okay, amazing. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum jamian wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, we continue our journey into Ayat al-Kursi, and today we want to look at this beautiful quality of God that Allah is talking about in Ayat al-Kursi, where He is saying, "La khuzuhu sinatun wala noum." And if you look at the word ta'khudhu, it comes from the root word akhadha, and sometimes in Urdu and Arabic we use this word akhadha as something to overcome and captivate, something that can gain mastery over you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over here is describing himself, and he's saying that he is the one who is not overcome. He cannot be overcome, and he cannot be captivated by two things. Sinatun wala noum. So sinatun, sin comes from the root words wasana, which is slumber or sleep. And noum also is giving us the meaning of sleep. Now, when we look at the translations in Urdu, they say that sinatun wala noum mean neither sleep nor like a drowsiness. Now, what we're trying to see here is that there's a beautiful explanation here, that it's not like okay, he's not overcome with sleep, but there is no drowsiness. There is no even like an obliviousness or tripping away for even a second. There's no idea that he becomes ghafil and he goes into this other place where he's not there anymore. Now, the opposite of sleep and this kind of ghafla is vigilance, that he is vigilant, he is awake. And we can take this as in two ways. We will see this, that not only are we going to see that Allah himself is always awake, he is always present, he is always there, vigilant, taking care of his affairs, taking care of his people, but the fact that there is a presence of God within us that never diminishes. And that is a really, really important aspect that we want to see today. So when we say that Allah's presence within us never diminishes, it's a two-way benefit in our understanding of who God is. When we say that Allah's presence, وَنَفَخْتَهُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِهِ, he says, I have breathed my spirit into you, then there is a particle of God that is ever present within us, always near us. He's saying, I'm closer to you than my hablil warid. I am closer to you than your jugular vein. Now, this part of God that is so intimate with us, so close to us, which is near us, is also of that quality that it is ever present, it is always available. Then it means that there's a part of us that never sleeps. There's a part of us that will never become oblivious. which will never be negligent of what is going on or what is. So when we see this, we realize that number one, there's a presence. Sorry.
Can you let Gulam in? Can you let Gulam in?
Oh, of course, but I can't see any invitation.
Trying to get in.
Is he trying to get in? I don't have any message here.
Got it. Okay. Got it. He said it's fine.
Okay, but I
said
can't
he'll
see
get
him
it.
here. He's still not here.
Continue, he said.
Okay.
He can
So,
sit here.
yeah.
He can sit here with me.
Okay. Next time we can figure this out, but I can't see him here. Just tap on the link once more from your phone. Perhaps it should work.
Sorry. Sorry, please continue. Sorry.
No worries, no worries. Bismillah. So when we have this presence within us, we understand that number one, there is this always present reality that is protecting us, loving us, caring for us, always present for us to return to constantly. And so at no point in our life, at no point in our journey can we say that the presence of God is not there, right? And at no point can we say that, just going to, so that is one presence of God that is always present within us. The other idea here is that when we say that there is a presence of God that never becomes oblivious, we realize that we will never be left alone. We will never be left on our own in this journey. And his presence will always be overcoming and always be there with us to protect us, to guide us, and that voice will never go. So it's a two-way understanding of his ever-presence. One, that his guidance and his presence is always there for us, and it's always guiding us. And the other thing is that there's an availability to awaken and return at all times. That door never closes. That door never goes out of reach. That door never says, oh, you did this and now you're not worthy of returning. And in that sense, we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always there for us, guiding us with his ever presence into a reality that we become oblivious to, but he doesn't. So we enter a state of sleep in a couple of ways. Number one, we go and become oblivious when the world distracts us, and what we're doing in the world. Allah says, "Al-malu wal banun zinatu hayatid dunya," that our wealth and our children, they distract us, and we become oblivious to a higher purpose, a higher calling, a higher intention in life. And like the Quran says, that these are the people who are very absorbed, and they're very invested in the apparent world. But on the other hand, Allah is saying that the successful ones are those who are vigilant of their inner realities, of their akhirah. In Surah Rum, Allah Ta'ala is saying this, that the successful ones are the ones who are aware of the akhirah, of the inner world. These are the successful ones. So we're understanding now that there is a tendency in the human being to fall off this vigilance and go into a state of slumber. And we enter these phases in our life where there will be moments of heightened soul work, spiritual activity, connection. There's a lot of desire to pray. There's a lot of desire to learn, read books, listen to lectures, stay in silence. And then there will be moments where we don't feel like doing that. We kind of, indulge in other activities. We're not in the mood to pray. We don't feel like, sitting in a meditation. We don't feel like, actively pursuing any lectures. And we're just like, we feel like, okay, I'm done with this for a little while, and the cup feels full. And slowly, what happens is that for a while, when we're taking a break, then there's a rust that comes on the heart where there's a disconnect and we feel a little lost. There's a feeling of emptiness and we're not able to figure out that clarity of mind sometimes, clarity of focus within. And the thing is that when we enter this state of disconnect, we have to understand that even these states, they come from Allah. Because while we are sleeping, while we are in a state of noum, while we are in a state of slumber, or we have entered an autopilot, way of just going through life habitually, waking up, having tea, doing our thing, Allah has not gone to sleep. He is awake and he is taking care of us. And he is the shepherd who is always making sure that we're out of danger. He's always making sure that the guidance is constantly available to us. So then what happens is that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us go through these states where we don't feel the vigilance, we don't feel the presence, we don't feel the active pursuing, he's also making us taste a certain phase of our soul. And in that phase of the soul, when there is a disconnect, we start to feel this emptiness, we start to feel this restlessness. Now, if we did not have this, if we did not have this feeling of emptiness, restlessness, disconnect, those moments that were actually awakened moments, we would not be able to differentiate between the two. So every moment that descends upon the heart with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happening for a purpose. There's a higher purpose hidden behind all the states of the soul. And we have spoken about this, that Ibn Arabi talks about nafsur rahma, the breath of the merciful. And the breath of the merciful has been interpreted by Professor Keith Kitchlow. And he explains that the soul goes through states of contraction and expansion. And so there is a state of qabz and there is a state of bast. And Allah's names are Qabiz and Basit, and he contracts and he expands. So, while we may go to sleep, while we may be oblivious, while we may be inactive, while we may lose that sense of mindfulness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always awake, always busy with his amr, His amr, his work never stops. His vigilance, his overlooking, his love, his presence never ceases. And so even for a second, there is no lack of overlooking, lack of protection, caring, guiding, that doesn't ever stop. Now, I came across something very interesting recently, which I would love to share, is, when do we feel this emptiness? This, a lot of people, when they're looking for a purpose in their life, they will say, I feel very empty inside. I've been feeling a void inside. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to fill it. I'm trying to fulfill my purpose. I have a calling. So, sometimes we feel like we have a calling and I am supposed to be a volunteer, or I am supposed to be a charity worker, or emergency disaster, workforce, for example. Let's take that. All right. Now, we get very invested in these labels. And even if I don't talk about these very, hi-fi charity labels, I can say that as a mother, sometimes I feel, oh, I'm a mother, or I'm a daughter, or I'm a speaker, or I'm a teacher, right? And what ends up happening is that I start to disintegrate myself into different identities. Now there's a movement away from unity because there is one Fatima, but then now she's dividing herself into these different identities and different roles. This is the first step away from who I am, the breath of God, the I am within me, the truth that lives through me. I am now moving away from the I am, and now I am disintegrating myself into a couple of identities. So now I am not just I am, but I am Fatima, who is a mother, who's a speaker, who's a teacher, all of that. And now I feel this sleep that comes over me, where now I'm oblivious to who I am, but I am now very invested in this role. So if I want to prove myself as a good mother, then I get very caught up with what the world is doing that defines a good mother. And a good mother is somebody who takes their children to a million activities every day, and they're doing soccer, and they're doing swimming, and they're doing this, and they're doing chess, and they're doing all of these things, right? And so I get very invested, and then I start putting these burdens on myself that in order to give myself this accolade of a good mother, I need to prove myself as a good mother. And for that, I need to do a lot of these things. So my time and energy start to get invested in these activities so that I can earn for myself and for my inner satisfaction this reward, this award, this title of a good mother. In the same way, if I feel like I'm a minister, for example, or I'm a community worker or a government service person, you know, what makes a good volunteer? So now I want to go above and beyond myself, maybe neglecting my own needs at times and going and, you know, doing XYZ work. And when I'm with myself, I'm depleted. When I'm with my family, I'm depleted. But I am running after and chasing after fulfilling this desire to perfect my role as XYZ. So that's one role, mother, worker. If I'm a teacher, then okay, you know, how do you become a good, what are other good teachers doing? What are other good speakers doing? Oh, you know, motivational speakers need to have a good PR, and they need to be good on Instagram, and they need to have up-to-date XYZ things, and they need to be up to date with, you know, they need to have a certain number of followers, etc. So now what happens is that you get caught up in fulfilling that role, that particular title, that particular identity. And when you start to fill those cups, the very cup that was your truth and that very identity that connects you to your source, the I am, the truth within you starts to get neglected. And while we're perfecting all these other roles, the I am has been left alone, has been neglected. You have gone to sleep and you have become oblivious to who you are. So there's a slumber that takes over us in trying to fulfill all these other accolades. But we see that people of God are the ones who are not after any titles, they're not after any accolades, they're not after any rewards, but they're constantly remembering where they have come from, what is their journey within, their akhirah, what is within them that needs to be manifested. Allah says, I was a hidden treasure and I wanted to be known. And Allah's names that were given to Adam, they have to come into the manifested world to be manifested. So the world of the divine is a world of the unseen, is the world of complete pitch dark. There is no manifestation. There is only essence. And then we have the world of manifestation, the seen world where we are existing right now. And the seen world has a purpose. And the purpose of the seen world is that the haqq, that the truth manifests itself. Allah is saying, I wanted to be known. I was a hidden treasure, kanzul makhfiya. I was a hidden treasure. I wanted to be known. And Allah's treasure is hidden in the chest of the human being, in the heart. And the purpose is to manifest this treasure. But we go to sleep and we become oblivious to this purpose. And we start to look at other purposes that the world beguiles us into. And this glimmer and the shimmer of the world makes us wonder how I can get more popular, how I can get more love, how I can get more accepted and validated, how I can reach the ladder of, corporate perfection and leadership and all of that. And in all of us, there is a distraction like this, where we become distracted into filling these roles, these identities, which the world decided. The world decided who is successful. And we were drilled into understanding, oh, success looks like A, B, C, D. And so we start to fulfill those definitions set by the world because we also want to be successful. Now, the difference in the friends of God and the people who are distracted is that the success of the world does not beguile the friends of God. For them, the definition of success comes from within. Now, here I want to express something very subtle. The idea of success for every human being has to be uncovered and discovered. The idea of success for my soul cannot be identical to your soul. Your success lies in you uncovering who you are and what your purpose is and what you need to manifest as a part of that manifestation of the divine. And my success will look what is my soul's purpose on my path. And that is where we get lost because number one, we have a very big tendency to compare. And number two, because we're not grounded in our centeredness with the divine, with God being the source, being the protector, being the love, being the one who supports us, we look for support and love outside. And in order to collect and accumulate this love and acceptance, we want to gain and collect these titles of a good this, good that, perfect mother, perfect daughter, perfect this, perfect child, perfect wife. And then what happens is that we lose track of what it is that I was meant to manifest. And in this journey, in this getting lost into the world's definition of success, we also forget to understand that other person's path cannot work for my soul. In comparison, in looking at the other person and what they're doing and what the world is expecting of us, it's all the outside. It is all what is being fed into me. But the work is to manifest what is hidden within me, not take instructions from outside, but to express what is within me. Now, if you look at the Holy Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's born in this prestigious family, the Quraysh, and they are big traders and they're very famous in Arabia. And the Quraysh are also, Hazrat Abdul Muttalib is the caretaker of the Kaaba. So he has this big respect, all right? And he has these tribes and he is doing all this. And then we see that the Holy Prophet is in the family. He keeps losing his family members. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly taking that identity away from the Prophet. First he is born into this family, big family, the Quraysh, the caretakers of the Kaaba and everything. But the Prophet is born an orphan. So he has no presence of that father name, the name of the father that is given to you. He doesn't have that father. So that identity is not consolidated with him as Muhammad, son of Abdullah. Abdullah is not there, right? Then we see that he is handed over to his mother is there, and then that mother goes away. So now Amna and Abdullah are both gone. So now that child who could have been associated with the parents, that these are the parents and Muhammad is the son of these parents, is now taken away from him. Then we see that he's handed over to his grandfather. Then we see he's handed over to his uncle. And we're constantly seeing that he starts to consolidate his identity in associating himself with one person, and then that's gone. It's erased. And so constantly we see that until we see that the Prophet works as a shepherd, and we see that the Prophet travels with his uncle and all of that. Then we see that he becomes a tradesman. And constantly the Prophet has this change. There's a change, constantly changing, constantly adopting, constantly assimilating newer paths, adventures, exploring. And there is no stagnation in one identity. And we see that a person who goes through something like that somehow develops a detachment for an identity, to stay in one place, to be associated with one person, to get comfortable in one zone. Because constantly Prophet Muhammad's comfort zone is being taken away from him. And now we see that with Bibi Khadija, he is a man who is receiving a proposal from a woman. In a society where men are everything and women are buried alive, he has no issues with a woman proposing to him, hiring him as her employee, you know. And so we're seeing that only a person who is not associated with fulfilling a certain identity can be so malleable, can say yes to something new that comes up which nobody's heard or seen before. And he finds intrinsic value in the goodness of what he's experiencing instead of judging it by what the world judges as good. So he has not created identities with people, with circumstances, with affluence, with job description, with family name, none of it. So he's detached from a sense of finding value in these outer accolades. So that now when we see that he is going to Hira and he's sitting in the cave of Hira and he's meditating, and he is finding that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduces a new identity for him as a messenger, he has the capacity to receive it. He has a capacity to honor this identity given to him from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we see that Prophet Muhammad then has so many titles. You know, we see that he's Nabi al-Ummi. We see that he is, you know, the praised one. We see that he is Rasul. He is the Nabi. And he is the messenger. Now, this is something we see again and again in the Quran, that people, when they received a prophet, they would say that, but there's nothing extraordinary about you. You're just like us. You don't have any miracles. You don't have any, you know, anything to show off. You don't have wings. You don't have special powers. Who are you? You're just a normal person like us. And so messengers don't have a prestigious, so to say, a worldly accolade or a title that they can show off and say, oh, you know, I'm the messenger of God. To the contrary, we see that messengers of God have been belittled, demeaned, and ridiculed, mocked. And it all comes down to their own faith in the message of God, because a person with money, a person with a title, a person with power can show off their identity in the outer world through outer means. But a messenger of God has to completely rely on an inner grounding with the truth that helps them move through their journey and their mission without wavering, and constantly saying that I'm the servant of the one who has the biggest treasures. I'm the servant of the one who never sleeps. I'm the servant of the one who always protects. I'm the servant of the one who always supports. I'm the servant of the one who's always truthful. And that becomes their grounding and sense of pride. If we ground ourselves in things, accolades, titles, and outer definitions of success, then as we've discussed much earlier in one of the classes, that these are temporary. They change. Idea of beauty changes. I mean, the kind of makeup we used to do 50 years ago, we don't even do that kind of makeup anymore, right? We change. We're constantly evolving. Everything has a downfall to it. And so if we ground ourselves in these fleeting ideas, then we become a fleeting reality, and we lose that value in our groundedness. But if we are grounded in the one who is everlasting, if we ground ourselves in the one who is always living, always vigilant, always awake, always present, then we always have a home to go back to. We are never abandoned. We're never without a friend. We're never without validation. We're never without somebody who's there to hold us. And that is the true faith this verse brings into us, that he is never, ever oblivious of you. And that pride, that understanding, that faith, if that can enter our hearts, then the most beautiful thing about connecting and grounding ourselves with an Allah, with an entity, with a divine power who never sleeps and never oblivious, is that we always have hope. We always have a chance. And that never goes. He is never oblivious to me or you at any given moment. So this presence of God, which never goes to sleep and is always awakened within us, can also be understood as the guiding power that resides within us. So the compass, the beeper, the alarm within us, it is never sleeping. It is awake. A human being is always ready to be awakened. Or must I say, the call to awakening is an ongoing call. It never, ever, ever, ever stops. And so we see again and again in our lives that people find awakening at different stages of their life. Some people will be in a state of slumber and suddenly you see they've changed. I know a young boy, as a child, I even know that, at times I would hear that he would steal even. It was a family kid and the parents were really worried. And then once I found out that he forged signatures for his college or something. And then he went off and he was on his own. And many years later, I find out that he is, totally into mindful work, meditation, going vegan, and into very spiritual work, all of that. And you see that awakening that was always there, and they say, what did they say? I may be wrong. A priest was once a sinner and a sinner can become a priest. We never know. We never know where the journey takes its turn, when this awakening can awaken us. But the call to awakening never sleeps. So that presence of God within us, it never goes to sleep. The guidance never sleeps. The voice of God in our hearts never ever goes. And so we have to have this faith in humanity. We have to have this faith in the intrinsic goodness of humanity. That, you know, I was talking to somebody yesterday who messaged me saying that I have a friend and I'm very worried for her because she's not doing too well in her relationships, in her life, and things are really not doing okay. But she's not willing to listen. She's not willing to do anything about it. She's not willing to go to therapist. She's not willing to talk to a counselor, and she just keeps whining. She just keeps venting. And what can I do? Should I suggest someone to her? And the thing is that that this idea that somehow we can influence people, change people, guide people is flawed, because people cannot receive if they're not ready to receive. You know, they will only receive when they're ready, and they will ask for it, and they will say, give it to me, tell me the therapist. I'm sick of being sick. I need to get out of this feeling sick and tired of the time. I'm all the time. I need you to guide me. Please tell me name of a therapist. Please tell me a counselor, a healer, whatever. I need to do something. I need to get out of here, right? Until that touching rock bottom doesn't happen, we really cannot guide or change anybody. And we need to understand that the one who is the ultimate hadi, the one who is the ultimate guide, the one who is the ultimate teacher, he's a better teacher than I am. He's a better, more loving and caring and concerned presence in the life of all